Hello, everyone. Welcome to NorthStar community. Always glad to know some of you are following along and watching these talks, and hopefully they're doing are helpful to you. And so, as I assume again, as always, that if you're watching this, you're at some form of recovery, or a loved one of yours is going through recovery, and um, recovery's tough. I mean, let's not mince words here. If you guys are on your journey, you know how difficult it is, and if you're new to the journey, hang in there. It's worth it. Living with bitterness, resentment, no purpose, living your life, surviving, avoiding, all those things, living with loneliness, all those things, it's worth it to keep going. Because think about it again, we talk about this all the time, is having a rich, full, meaningful life. One that we enjoy, by the way. So, rich, full, meaningful life. I have faith in a God that loves me. I have purpose. I have reasons to wake up in the morning. I have friends. I have relatives that are healthy in my life. I'm healthy for other people. I live with gratitude. I live with hope for the future. All these things. It really is the opposite of living our lives addictively. Because and when we're in addiction, we're living with survival. That's really what we're doing. We're making day to day, not expecting much, hoping to get by. And the worst part of all of it is, if you're new to this, you know what I'm talking about, is you really don't like yourself much. And I'm hoping that as you continue this journey, you start to see the value of you. You know, the biggest myth we live in our lives is seeing ourselves with low self-esteem. Seeing, God created us. God knew what He's doing. He's making us. We all have the great stuff in us to be fine human beings, not perfect human beings, but fine human beings. And we just have to let go of the trauma, the hurt, the abandonment, the childhood neglects, all those things have been in our lives that is so colored our view of the world to see it as negative and destructive and painful. Instead, if we have a rich, full, meaningful life, we still are going to have issues. We're still going to have problems. But when we can live with purpose and with gratitude, the tough times aren't so deep, and the good times may last a little longer, but we manage to get through the hard times in a much healthier manner. When we're addictively thinking, we turn to our addictions of substances, compulsive behaviors, people, you name it, and we really work hard to destroy ourselves. And so that's not what we want. But today what I want to talk about is, do we want to recover? For many of us, that may be an obvious question that maybe isn't easy to answer, because a lot of times with so much pain in us, so much heartache, so much hurt, physical addiction to substances, if that's ours, all those kind of things. The problem is it's what we know. So in some ways, we may not want to get healthy. We may not want to be recovered. So I'm going to read John 5. I thought it was an interesting take on this, because lots of know this story, but if you don't, I'm going to read it to you. So this is about the crippled man at the pool. And let me read scriptures first. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 colored colonnades, or covered by colonnades. So there's like porches around. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie there: the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. So let's make sure we remember that, 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Isn't that interesting that Jesus is asking him that? And again, I am so sorry. So the guy, the invalid says, "Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred." So make sure, again, 38 years, did he say, "Do you want to get well?" he didn't say, yes. He says, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water stirred while I'm trying to get in. Someone else goes down ahead of me. So the belief was that an angel would come, and when the water started to bubble, the first one into the pool would be healed. I guess I'm going to assume that actually happened because people certainly hung around there trying to be healed with it. So I'm going to assume that's the case. It seems odd to me, but so while I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. So he's always losing. Then Jesus said to him, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day in which this took place was the Sabbath. And so the Jewish leader said to the man who had been healed, it is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat. But he replied, the man who made me well said to me, pick up your mat and walk. So if I've been a cripple for 38 years and the guy that healed me told me to get up and walk, I'd probably do the same thing. But here's the thing. Did he really want to get healed? Do you think after 38 years he might have figured out a different strategy? He had to. Some thought that he kind of liked being crippled. Maybe he had prestige there. Maybe he was the go-to guy, the expert on here's where you need to be. Come over here. Let me. He might have been looked up to as the elder statesman of the invalids and the people who were paralyzed, blind, all those things. And I always remember reading the last part here. So Jesus finds the guy at the temple and he says to him, see, you are well again. Stop sinning or something worse may happen to you. Always bothered me a bit. I was like, so it was his sins that caused him to be crippled or all those things? Of course, I don't think any of us believe that. But I was thinking about if you take it from an addiction point of view, then Jesus' words didn't make sense. I think Jesus knew what he was doing here. Again, as always, was he was saying you didn't really want to get well. That was your sin. You wanted to live in misery. In our world of recovery, you wanted to be in your addictions because it's what you knew. It's what was familiar to you. It's what you liked. It gave you some, as miserable as it was. And think about how many of us in our lives, in our addictive behaviors, we don't get well because we don't want to. We want to be miserable. We're happy to be unhappy. We believe nothing good's going to happen. The future's going to be bad. All you got to do is look at all the things we've done. And for many of us, we were so betrayed by people that we should not have been betrayed by. Our parents, authority figures, spouses. We could go on and on. But at some point, we have to take responsibility and we have to figure out a strategy to get into the pool and recover. And I think what Jesus was saying to him is, the sin you had was you didn't want to get well. And that is a sin for us. If we do not want to recover, if we want to stay wallowing around in our addictions, creating issues for ourselves, creating issues for everyone else, not taking the risk to look at the pain in our lives, because that's what drives so many of us. It's the unresolved, and for some of us, maybe even our unaware trauma points in our life that have created us to act out with anger, resentments, to want to take up our lives doing things to avoid the pain in our lives. And we do lots of destructive things when we do that. And so I think Jesus was saying to this guy, look, you've had lots of opportunities. You've been here 38 years and you haven't got healed. That's on you because you could have figured out a way to get in that pool. And I think that's what I'm saying to us today is, I don't judge any of us for being addicted. I don't judge any of us for wrecking our lives. I feel bad for vast majority of us because of what happened in your lives as children, what you didn't get, what you should have got. We can go through all that stuff. But at some point, you become an adult. And that's when it's on you now to recover. And yes, I hope that you can recover with those that harmed you. If you've harmed people, I hope you can make amends. All those things. But you have to be willing to let go of your pain enough to say, my life is unmanageable. I am powerless over the pains in my life, the things I'm doing, and I need God. I need a higher power to come and help me get through this. And then I got to do the things I need to do to get there. Recovery is a medical model based on support, on stopping, understanding, talking about the issues in your life, helping you to get past your pain so you don't need substances, you don't need compulsive behaviors and or people to get you through, that you can become self-actualized enough to be healthy enough to live your life. And then, of course, our goal is to get to a rich, full, meaningful life. And it can be done. For you that are further down the road in recovery, you know this because you're experiencing some of this. You're actually starting to catch glimpses of a rich, full, meaningful life. You might even be living it more than you're not. But it can be done, but you have to do it. You have to get yourself to support groups. You have to talk to people. You have to disengage from toxic people. You have to make commitments to stop what you're doing that's addictive now so you can recover. You cannot do this alone. You cannot lay on your mat 20 feet from the pool and never get to the pool because you don't want to. So I hope this makes sense. That was a great take on John 5, and it's in John 5 if you want to look it up. Like I said, it makes me more comfortable that Jesus was saying, go and sin no more. So he wasn't saying you sinned and thus you became crippled. What he was saying was your sin was you didn't have enough faith. You didn't want to get well. You wanted to stay the way you were. And that fits so well for us in addiction recovery. So the challenge to you is to be willing to take the risk to recover, to love yourself enough to recover, to make God the most important part of your life, and life will get better for you. I promise it. So one of the things you need to do is get into support groups. If you're local, we meet here at 6:30 on Wednesdays and Fridays right here at Walnut Grove Baptist Church. We meet in the multi-purpose room. It's on 7046 Cold Harbor Road in Mechanicsville. If you're not local, thanks for joining. You can always reach out to me and email me and let me know what's going on. And there are support groups everywhere. AA meetings are everywhere. There are places you can go. Staying home, isolating, and being miserable is not the way to go. So we always close with the prayer of serenity, which is such an important, really, mandate on how to live your life healthily. And so let me read this to you. I think it's just such a great prayer about living in the moment, in the present, and trusting God. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever and the next. Amen. Again, thank you for joining today, and have a great week. And let me know again if you have anything you want to reach out and talk to me about. C. Simpson at wgva.church. Thank you.